All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll allow people just a couple of minutes to log in and get situated. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you again for logging on and being with us this morning or this evening. Just giving everybody a couple of minutes to join in. We know it's right after work time, so we're very excited for our presentation this evening. So thank you all. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Andrea Perdomo Morales, and I am the co-chair of Communities Concerned for Immigrants and Refugees. This is a network that is sponsored by the Reach Healthcare Foundation. Part of what we seek to do is to provide information to the greater Kansas City area, those individuals that have a passion or interest in working with immigrants and refugees, and we're very excited to start a new series this evening, making sure that all of us in our community know about the stories and the lives and traditions of our fellow immigrant and refugee community members. So with that, I'm going to turn over the program this evening to Donna Devine, who is working closely with us at Communities Concerned for Immigrants and Refugees. Thank you, Donna, and our guest, Aung, for being with us this evening. I will turn it over to you, Donna.
Okay, thank you. So I assist CCIR in setting up special projects, and as Andrea explained, this is a very special one. We have Aung Ki with us today, and he will be sharing with us his experiences of living in another country, being a refugee, and coming to America. We hope to have a better understanding of what that experience has been like, and also for the service providers who are watching to provide maybe some tips on things that might help when people come to our country on how to help them navigate the systems where we're providing the services. So I'd like Aung to introduce himself, and I will kind of moderate this. It'll be somewhat of a discussion back and forth between Aung and I. And if you have questions, if you could hold off, just jot them down, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So Aung, now I'm turning it over to you.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you to United States government, and thank you to the Kansas for giving me a second chance to live. So, and I also appreciate Donna and Andrea for having me speak here. So I really appreciate. My name is Aung Ki. I came from a small village from Chin State, Myanmar. So once I no longer safe in my country, I fled to the Malaysia in 2004. When I got to the Malaysia, I registered as a refugee with United Nations for Refugee Commissioner Office in Malaysia. And then I just married, so my wife Margaret and I live here in Kansas, and my future plan is to get my bachelor degree from the UMKC, and then to have a stable job in the United States to get a second life.
Okay, thanks. So when you left Malaysia, or when you left Myanmar and went to Malaysia, was that by yourself, or were you with your family? How did you navigate and decide to go where you went?
So when I left my country, that was my friend, two of my friends, me and three of my friends went to Malaysia together. So
How
we
old were
met,
you then?
I was 19 years old.
Okay.
I was 19 years old, and then both three of us went to Malaysia. We found an agent who would took me to the Malaysia. And we got to the Malaysia, then we met with the community leader there, so who will help us register with the UN. And then we became refugee. We got a refugee status in Malaysia.
So did you live in a refugee camp?
I did not live in a refugee camp. So I just got refugee status in Malaysia, but I live in a rural area of Malaysia. I work in a construction site and I drive the lorry, small truck. And yeah, there is no refugee camp in Malaysia. I grew up in rural area of Malaysia.
So was it hard to find a job there?
That is really hard to find a job there. There is no legal job available for refugee in Malaysia. So we got a job like the hustle job. We got the construction job, and then some people, some refugee get a job like a waiter in a restaurant. So whatever job that is available for us, we work there.
And how did you find housing?
Housing, for the housing, that is the people, my friend already in Malaysia, so they have find a refugee housing. So as a construction worker in Malaysia, I live in the jungle. We do not live in an apartment like this. So I live in a jungle, we make a tent, living in the forest.
Okay. And I'm curious though, again, about your family. Did the rest of your family stay where they were, or did they flee to other places as well?
My mother and father stay in Myanmar, back in Myanmar. So I have no brother, so that is only me. So my mother and father left in Myanmar.
Okay. Okay, so then how was it that you came to America? What's the process for that?
And once I registered with the UN as a refugee, and that is I apply for resettlement program to United States. So I went through the step-by-step to get resettled to United States. And it took me 10 years to finish that process. And finally, I got resettled to United States in 2016.
So why does it take so long?
There is UN process, United Nations. That is their process. So that is huge refugee amount in Malaysia. So I have no idea why that took me that long.
So what do you do? Do you have to have medical screenings? Do you have to write an essay? I mean, do they look into your background? What?
I did look into my background, and then I went through a medical examination. Yeah, the longest part of that process is a medical examination and then background checking.
Okay. And did you get to pick what country you wanted to go to?
I have no option to pick which country I wanted to get resettled. So I just apply for the settlement option. So you and United Nations pick the country that is right for me. But I'm glad that I'm here at the United States.
So did you think it was going to take 10 years when you went to Malaysia? Did you hear from other people it's a simple process, or what did you expect?
That is really the most I am frustrated about is that process. So many people still waiting in Malaysia to get resettled to the third country. There is still 50,000 refugees in Malaysia who are still waiting for the settlement. So that is the normal for the settlement process in Malaysia. That is why the United States said that it is a normal process.
So how did you find out that you were selected?
They contact me. they contact me and letting me know that, okay, you are selected for resettlement. And then I went through necessary process and I get resettled.
Okay. So when you come to America, does the American government pay for you for your travel to get here and for your costs when you get to America?
Yeah, that is a good question. So when I came to United States, we pay for that. So first of all, United States government and US government pay for our flight fee and everything. But after that, when we get a job, so we have to pay for that.
So you have to pay the government back for your airline ticket?
Yes, we repay the air ticket to the government.
Okay. Then where did you arrive to? What city, or how do they select where you're going to live?
They asked me when I was in Malaysia, they asked me if I have any relative or any friend in United States. And I said, yes, I know some friends living in Kansas in United States. That's where they put me here in Kansas, and I'm happy.
Okay. All right. So what did you think when you first arrived to Kansas City? You said you worked in a rural area in Malaysia and now you're in an urban environment. What were your first impressions?
Yeah, the first impression is the environment and everything is just changing. So I'm not familiar with the transportation. I'm not familiar with everything living here. So when I got here, I am totally released. That I feel really great here. Then everything is totally different from what I live in Malaysia. But yeah, since once I been here for a while, I've been adjusting to the situation.
Okay, so who helped you when you first came to Kansas City?
So that is the Catholic Charity of Northeast Kansas. So that is the case worker there. So they are doing a great job for helping a refugee and an immigrant. So they arrange everything, housing, the job, they have screening, any necessary document. So they helping a refugee.
Okay. So many of the people who will be watching this are in a health profession. So I'd like to ask you some questions specifically about health. And I guess if you could tell us a little bit about what the health system was like in Myanmar and then what it was like in Malaysia.
So asking me?
So what was the health system like in Myanmar?
Okay, so the health system in Myanmar, okay, I wanted to start with this. Myanmar is the #1, the poorest country in the world. So we do not have any health system available throughout the government. So in Myanmar, we travel 40 miles to get into the hospital. My village is a very rural area as well back in Myanmar. So I spent 2 days to go to the hospital. So my parents, including me, I do not remember visiting hospital in Myanmar. The same is true when I get to the Malaysia. There is no government healthcare system available for refugee in Malaysia. So the only health system available to refugee is throughout non-profit organization. So they provide us very basic healthcare, like the generic medicine, headache medicine, and the fever medicine. We get those medicine from the non-profit organization. We do not get any healthcare care from the government of Malaysia.
What if you tried to use the healthcare system in Malaysia?
So I still remember my fellow refugee visiting a hospital and getting arrested by Malaysia authority. So refugee visit the Malay hospital they risk their life. So they only visit the hospital if they know they are dying soon, unless they do not visit the hospital.
So when women have babies, who helps them with that?
Yes, I still remember my fellow teen refugee being arrested by Malaysia immigration officer at the hospital. He was delivering a baby. Then after that, after the day after she delivered a baby, uh, Malaysia immigration officer picked her up and then arrested her, put her at the lockup. And I visit the immigration lockup as well. So I still remember that.
So the woman was locked up for being pregnant and having a child?
Yes, yes. And then she was deported back to the Myanmar.
Okay. So with the non-for-profit that provided medical care, was it easy to get in to see a doctor?
We can't really see a doctor, so they are only provide us with the basic medicine. So we never see a doctor.
So you would just go and tell your symptoms and someone would say, here's some medicine, take this?
Exactly. That is what I had been. So yeah, we will describe our symptom and then they will prescribe the medicine that is available.
Okay. When you came to the United States, I know you, I think, had to have some health screenings once you got here to make sure that you had immunizations and that your health was good. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so when I got to the US, so I got the medical exam. Then yeah, they're taking care of everything. So they took my blood and everything, check up. So here I finally get to visit the doctor here.
Okay. Now that you are on your own, I mean, I know you're, or at least I assume you're no longer being assisted through Catholic Charities. They help you for a certain period of time. How do you navigate the health system now?
So the health system in United States is really great. So it is really easy to access for everyone, except for that's like I mentioned. So except for that's really expensive. But yeah, I have the regular doctor at the KU. Then yeah, if I need it, I visit the KU hospital and the urgent care. So I have no, yeah, I would say I have no problem with the healthcare system in the United States.
Can you get health insurance?
Yes, yes, I get health insurance throughout my job.
Okay, all right. Is it easy to get in to see a health professional if you need that?
Yeah, it is relatively really easy to see a doctor. I would say
Okay.
it is easy. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering, are there things that the doctor tells you to do that are different from your customs or how you approach medicine when you were not in the United States?
So for that, that is no culturally two different things. So yeah, so whatever the doctor prescribed to me, so I have no any contradiction or any problem with that.
Okay,
Pretty much easy.
and as far as the language, was that a problem when you first got here as far as understanding what the doctor or the medical care provider was explaining to you?
Yeah, so for me, it is not a huge problem for me, but for my refugee community here, the language barrier is the huge problem for them to access to the healthcare.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, that is the interpreter available for refugee, but it is not always available to them. So language barrier is the most challenging part for refugee.
Do you have any suggestions for healthcare providers on how they can navigate that better for refugees?
What I'm thinking is like the hospital, like the KU, if they have a full-time interpreter available there in person instead of the on the phone, instead of the video interpreting. So if they can employ the 2 or 3 staff for interpreter, that would be very helpful for refugee.
Okay. Do you get good explanations of the medicines that are prescribed for you? Do you feel like they explain that well enough so that you can understand how to take them, when to take them, why you're taking them?
Absolutely, they're doing a great job. So they explain
Okay.
everything in the detail. So
Good.
that part, yeah, is really great.
Okay, very good. And you said that culturally there are not any medicines that you maybe took when you were in Myanmar or Malaysia that you feel are more effective than the ones that you take here?
Yeah, since I was a child, I was born, I never took any medicine both in Malaysia and in Myanmar. So yeah, so everything here the doctor prescribed it to me, that is really, I have no problem with that.
Okay, all right. So let's switch over to education. Can you explain to us or share with us some information about what the education system was like before you came to America?
Yeah, so like I said, Myanmar is the #1, the poorest country in the world. So especially in the Chin State, when I was born, uh, that is a small village where I was born. There's only 4 grade school in there. We do not have middle school, we do not have high school in my village. If I wanted to go for the high school, if I have to travel 100 miles. I have to spend 4 days traveling on foot to go to school, to go to middle school, to go to the high school. If I wanted to go for the college and university, I have to spend 5 days to go to the city for the college.
So what do people do to learn the language and to learn mathematics and history and things like that? Is that just something people don't learn, or?
Yeah, so we travel 2 to 3 days to get that education, that basic education.
Then when you get there, do you stay all week, and where do you stay?
We stay in my relative house. We have the friend's house. We share their house. And we stay there for a year to get that education.
So do you see your parents on the weekend, or?
We see our parents once a year. I graduated high school.
Once a year?
Yes, once a year. If you are attending high school, you only see your mother, your relative once a year.
That sounds like a lot to ask someone to have an education.
Yes, so I graduated high school in 2000. So I stay all year long in that town. I travel 3 days. And then
go ahead.
Yeah, and then at the summer holiday, I went back to my village to visit my parents.
Okay. So are there certain things that you learn at each grade? Do you take tests to move on to the next grade? Do you stay in the same grade if you haven't learned what you need to learn?
Yeah, so every year there's an exam. So we took the exam for every year. If we pass by 60%, then we get passed. Then we move to another grade.
And if you don't pass?
Then we stay at the same grades. We don't move up.
Okay. So are there some students who if they can't pass, they get to be too big and feel like they don't fit in with the other classmates?
Yeah, that is the what normally happen. So most of my friends, they did not pass the exam, so they have to stay there forever. Once they feel like, okay, I no longer fit with this grade, they just, quit school.
And what does it cost to go to school?
So I barely spend my food on the food. So I travel on food for 3 days. I make a rice. I pack my rice for 7 days or 3 days. Then I pack my rice and my clothes. So the only time in rice and clothes to travel to that town.
And then are the teachers, do you have to pay as a student? Do you pay the teacher, or does the government pay the teachers for the school?
The government pay the teacher for school, but we pay for our supply, book and book, pencil, uniform. So we pay for that.
Are you required to wear uniforms?
Yes, we are required to wear uniform.
Okay. And then once you pass your high school exam, are you chosen to go to college? Do you apply? How does that work?
I graduated high school and then I applied for university and I study law in Yangon University for 2 years before I fled to Malaysia.
So how old are you when you graduate from high school?
I was 16 when I graduated from high school.
Okay, and then is the university expensive?
Yeah, university is expensive as well. So I have my uncle, my relative who live in the town. So I live with them, then went to university.
And then how do you pay the tuition and for the books?
I work a restaurant as a waiter.
Okay.
Then, yeah, I
Okay.
earn money, then pay for the book and pension and stuff.
You were a passionate student to go through
Yeah.
all of that and get it done.
Yeah.
So then were you, when you went to Malaysia, did you try to continue in college, or were you allowed to even go to school there?
When I arrived in Malaysia, I was thinking about continuing the school, but as a refugee, I had no chance to go to the university and to go to the college.
You're just not even eligible to be accepted or to ask to go there?
I am not eligible to go to university at all in Malaysia.
So where did you learn your English?
In Malaysia, back in Myanmar, so we learn English since from 1st grade to the 10th grade in a high school. So I familiar with the English. And then when I attended the law school in Myanmar, so I learned English in there. So when I came to the Malaysia, so I use English a lot for the communicating with my employer and then friends.
So what languages do you know?
I speak Myanmar, I speak Chin, I speak Yotong. Yotong is one of the dialect speaking in Malaysia, in Chin state. And I also speak Malaysia. Yes, Yotong, Chin, Myanmar, Malaysia, English. I speak 5 languages.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
Yeah.
So then when you came to the United States, can you share with us your experiences of, you had your high school diploma, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
From Myanmar. Yeah.
So did you want to continue going to school in the United States? Did you think it would be enough to have your high school diploma? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I came to United States, the first thing I do is apply for the college. Then I was admitted to the Kansas City, Kansas Community College and graduated in the 2000 May. with associated degree from KCC, and now I am doing my bachelor at the UMKC.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying business management.
Okay. And when will you be done?
I still have the 49 credit hours, so probably I will be done by 2022.
Okay. So I'm curious, when you went to Kansas City Community College, did they recognize your diploma from Malaysia, or did you have your diploma with you? Were the documents a challenge or a barrier for you?
I have my diploma with me, so they accepted my diploma from Myanmar.
Okay. When the resettlement, when you left Malaysia, did they tell you to bring those documents, or did you just know you needed to have them?
When I got here, I know that I have to have, so I order my friend back in Myanmar, so they send it to me over here.
Okay. And then did you have to take like English competency tests, or did they have to check to make sure that you knew enough English that you would be successful?
Yeah, exactly. So I needed to take a reading test, speaking test, and writing test, basic math. So what we call here, replacement test.
Okay.
So I done with that, then I admitted to the regular college course.
Okay. So you do not have children. Are you familiar with what it is like for children to enter the school system in Kansas City, Kansas, when they've come from another country?
Yeah, so I have the friends of mine who have the children here. So children, they are learning pretty quick. So they are adapted to what they are here. So mostly they do not have a huge problem with the learning here in the school.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think of any questions about education. So do you have any ideas or thoughts on how people who are in the education system could be culturally aware or more sensitive, or how we can improve the ways we interact with refugees to help them feel more comfortable in our schools?
Yeah, so overall, the education system in the United States is really great. But what I notice here is most refugees from Myanmar, we are very, how do I say, family oriented.
Okay.
So when parents told their children, you have to be adopted, so that is what they wanted to be their children. So instead of focusing on what my children is good at, so they just wanted their children to be what they wanted to be. So if that is the parents and teacher conferencing, so conferencing them what is the good thing for the children, what is the good at your children, this is how learning process good for the children. So children and parent conferencing will be really helpful for the parents here in the United States as well as the children.
Okay, so do you think that causes some tension when a parent wants their child to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that student may think that's not what I want to be? And in America, there tends to be a sense that a child can choose what they want to do. And
Yeah. So the employer, teacher at the school, there should be more teacher and parents conferencing to let the parent know that this is what their potential. If you push your children to be like this, they're not gonna good at it. So, advise the children and the parents, not the children. So the children, they know what they wanted to do. So that is the parents' problem. They are not happy if their children become something else other than what they want them to.
Yes, I understand. Yes. So also, you were talking about how you left home to go to school and you did not see your parents very often. So your parents were not or could not be involved in your education because they were just not there. Do you see a difference in the expectations for parents being involved in their children's education here in the United States?
Yeah, so even back in my country in the Chin State, even they were not with me physically, so the influence is really huge still right now. So my relative, my friends surrounding, those are the people that they know. So they are still influencing me. So the same is true here at the refugee children here. So they are living together. So when they come back from the school, parents telling the children that you should be the good person. You should become a doctor. You should become a lawyer. You should become engineer. If you become like this, people will look up something else that is, they see something else as the, lower ranking.
Okay, and what about like the homework? When children here, many times their teachers assign them schoolwork to do at home. Is that the same way it is before you came? I mean, is the expectation that children have homework and parents will help them with the homework?
That is something totally new to refugee community for the, Chin refugee community. Back in Myanmar, there is no parent helping the children doing the homework. But here, children are bringing homework to their home, so parents were to help. But since they do not speak English very well, so I don't think most of the parents will be able to help with that homework.
Okay, and what about attendance? What kind of expectations were there for you to be at school every day and be on time, and maybe sometimes to stay after school if the teacher wanted you to have extra help? Is that similar or is that different?
Back in Myanmar, so that is the time is very limited. We go to school 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We stay all day long. So after that, no teacher is available for any tutoring.
You go
So
until
here,
5 p.m. to
yeah,
school?
9 to 5,
Okay,
8 hours a day.
okay. All right.
We eat lunch, then we take break at the 3 p.m. Then we went home at the 5 p.m. So after that, no teacher is available.
So did you have much homework then, or was it all expected to be done at the school?
It's expected to be done at school, but we have less homework. But here, it seems there is more homework than back in Myanmar.
Okay. So I don't know if you would know, but how many students, how many people complete their education and finish high school in Myanmar and Malaysia? Is it a lot, or do many children just not go to school or start and then do not continue and find other jobs? Or what do you think the expectation is?
When I was in Myanmar, so I will estimate that 10% finished high school, graduated from high school. So the same is true here. Many people did not graduate from high school in US as well.
Do you think of refugees, they do not graduate from high school, or people who have always lived in the United States that they do not finish?
People who already live in United States, 10% they did not finish high school.
Okay. Do you think it is harder for people to find jobs here if they do not have a high school diploma?
As Chin people, we are really hardworking people. So
Mhm.
first time employer will require that high school diploma is required, but once they know Chin people, Chin refugee, they're really working hard, they no longer require high school diploma. So they can get a job without high school diploma pretty easy here in Kansas. I don't know any other state.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you think students who leave the school system here in Kansas City, do they leave because they get frustrated with school, or do they leave because they need to make money for their family? Why do you think they do not finish?
I am thinking that they needed to work. They needed to support their parent back in the home, or they need to work for, you know, I think 50%, 50-50, they left school for money.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go on to spiritual beliefs or religious practices. Can you tell us a little bit just what the practices are in Myanmar and Malaysia, and if people who have particular beliefs when they come to the United States, what is it like for them to continue with their faith here?
So let me start with the 99% of Chin population is the Christian. So when we are in the Malaysia, so Malaysia is considered a Muslim country, so we did not get freedom to practice any Christianity in Malaysia. Once we get here, we are really happy to be able to practice our belief in Malaysia openly without any restriction here.
What kind of restriction would be placed on someone, a Christian?
So Myanmar, majority of Myanmar population are Buddhism. So we cannot have church. We cannot register, we cannot buy a land for the purpose of the church in the Myanmar. So we cannot make a noise. If we are singing in the church, then government will come to the church saying that you are annoying your neighbor. You cannot do like this. So that kind of restriction we have in Myanmar, both in Malaysia. So once we came to United States, for example, Chin refugee in Kansas, we just bought a huge church in the parallel pathway. So they are really happy to practice their belief here in the United States.
Okay, that is nice to hear. I am sorry for the way it is back in Myanmar, but it is nice to hear that that is a easier thing for refugees or people who come from other countries to be able to practice their faith here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about any special celebrations or rituals, traditions that you have that you either can or cannot do here in the United States?
So special event. So we used to we celebrate New Year, Christmas, Chin National Day, and yeah, those are our special day. Annually we celebrate it. So we do not have any particular belief that tradition. Yeah, so as Christian, so pretty much I would say pretty much the same.
Okay, all right. What about food? Are there special foods that you miss from Malaysia or Myanmar that you can or cannot get here?
I miss eating a fish from the river. The river that is really clean. So we do not fry that fish. We only boil the water.
Okay.
So it is really delicious. I had a lot of fish here, but that the fish in Chin State, that is really special. The
It's
taste
not
is
delicious
really good.
here.
It is not that delicious as back in Myanmar. So the water is naturally clean in Myanmar, so there is no pollution at all. There's no factory. So the river water, that is what we drink. There is no mineral water there. So river water that is really clean naturally. So the
Okay.
fish there are really naturally clean. So it is really good.
Okay, so are there herbs and spices or types of vegetables or fruits?
Um, we eat a lot of rice. So there is rice. Some people like spicy. Yeah, more like chili, corn, rice. Those are primary food that we eat back in Myanmar.
Okay, so students who go to public school, I suppose we don't have as much rice for lunch as they would be accustomed to.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what about clothing? Are you free to wear whatever type of clothing you want to here? Do people notice you? Is there some special dress and people notice you? And
We do not have we do not have any clothes that we cannot wear. So, but we do have our traditional dress that is very special for our Chin people. That is very unique for Chin people. We only wear those dress in the very big event, like in the school, or not in the school, in the church, in the Christmas, on the New Year event. So we wear those our traditional dress. But any other day, we are open to wear any clothes.
okay, and do you make those clothes then here in
We
Kansas City, or do you get them from home, or?
we get them from Myanmar, so we do not make here. We order from Myanmar.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the family arrangements as far as how important is the family nucleus, or do families tend to live together? Are they independent? I think there are differences, and I want to hear about what they are.
Yeah. So, as a collectivity culture, so the parents support their children until whenever they wanted to be with their parent. There is no any rule or any expectation that children should be independent by certain age. So the children, they spend with their parent as much as they want, as long as they want.
Do you think, though, that children, when they come to the US, tend to become more independent than they would be if they were still in Myanmar? And does that cause friction between the children and their parents?
Yeah, so once they used to with this the culture and this environment, so the children they become more independent when they come to United States. When they become 18 or 17 years old, they no longer live with their parent here. They said this is in United States. So yeah, they adopted this society and the living standard. So back in Myanmar, I if I marry, then I have new house. If I do not have the family, then I stay with my parents for as long as I want. But not that is not the same anymore here in the United States. People become more independent here.
Okay. Can you tell me about citizenship and what that process is? And are you encouraged to be a US citizen, or is that, what is that? What's that like?
Okay, so all of my fellow refugee, we are working toward becoming a citizen here, neutralized. So once we are here for 5 years, we are eligible to be neutralized. So we apply for citizenship application. Then we study new civic test. So if we pass that test, and we become neutralized. So since I am almost 5 years here, I am working on the application for neutralization.
Is that application difficult? Like it was, the application took 10 years to be accepted to come to the United States. Is the citizenship application expensive, and is it a challenge to complete the test?
The biggest challenges for the refugee to complete that test is the language barrier. So they have to be able to write, they have to be able to read, then have basic understanding of English. So, but most of my fellow refugees, they study really hard. And most of them here in Kansas, they became citizens when they qualified.
Is it expensive?
It is not expensive. We have to pay 600 something. I do not remember exactly.
And you don't think that is expensive? I think it's expensive.
It is not expensive. I don't think it is expensive because this is where the country that give you second chance. Why don't you give that money for the application to become fully citizenship, just rather than being a permanent resident?
Okay.
Now, yeah.
So you feel it is a good value, it is worth it?
Exactly. That is I do not see that as expensive.
Okay. So let's go back to Andrea and see if there have been any questions that have been posted. Andrea, have there been any questions?
We don't not have any as of right now.
Okay. All right, then we have a few more minutes. Tell me a little bit about the government and the difference in the government structures.
Okay. Myanmar is under the rule of the military for 70 years. But back in 2012, there is election in Myanmar, and democracy leader, the Aung San Suu Kyi, won the election and then became a state councilor. Then suddenly, you may have already heard about the military coup. So that was another election in the November last year. So the Aung San Suu Kyi party, they won again. So they're supposed to take the power in the January 2021. So on the January 1, that is the coup happened. So the Burmese military took the power from the winning party in Myanmar. So now they arrest any political leader in Myanmar. So they've been in control of the power in Myanmar. So they've been killing innocent people in Myanmar. So that is what Myanmar government system is right now. People are protesting, going out to the street. So they've been killing any people who are protesting in the street. So the world is watching, but the UN is doing very little thing to oppress the Myanmar government. So when we think about the government situation in Myanmar, I feel really it has very weight on me every day by day, my every day. So thinking about my people being killed, tortured by military back in Myanmar. So, but here we have a very transparency government here. So there might be something imperfect. No government is perfect, but we have very much better government here in the United States. So everyone is happy about that.
Okay. Do you have any other last comments that you'd like to make, that you want to share, something that you think we need to know?
Yeah, so yeah, just wanted to say that thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for the community, for your concern about refugee and immigrant here in the United States. So refugee from the Myanmar, Chin refugee, we are really hardworking people. We might not have any education, but we are really hardworking people. So once they came here to United States, they work, then most of them, they buy a house. 80% of Chin refugee already bought a house here in Kansas. They do not want to live in an apartment forever. So they grab whatever the job that is available for them, trying food. So that is a hard job for the, for many people, but Chin refugee, they don't care. As long as they can support their family, they work there for a long, long time, and then they buy a house. They just want to create a peaceful, very good society. They just want to build their relationship with their family. They wanted to live their life here in Kansas. So, yeah, thank you so much for the people of the great country, United States. Yeah, I personally appreciate.
Thank you for taking the time to share with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.